Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Facebook Live, our landlord chat. Tonight we have Jon and Amanda Eagle. They're with Legacy Home Investments. So a part of what I do of my advocacy through fighting to change the Residential and Tenancy Act and Landlord and Tenant Board is listening to landlords, talking to them, something that the government doesn't do. So this is why I really want to make it special and bring on Jon and Amanda, because they're going to talk to you about, investing in themselves. Like they're on Instagram. They're really trying to encourage people to get into secondary suites. They've done secondary suites, and we want to know what their experience is trying to create that, because a part of my advocacy is that secondary suites are really a part of that solution that the government does need to embrace, and not look at developers all the time, but really trying to convince homeowners to want to get into secondary suites so they can be a landlord, giving them secondary income to help them and also provide another rental unit on the market. So this is going to be probably a half an hour little segment, but if you are just tuning in now and you can't really watch, don't worry, get over to the Ontario Landlords Watch YouTube channel and you're going to be able to see this at a later time. Because I know that my kids are in bed and Jon and Amanda kids are in bed. So now we talk about real estate.
That's right.
Thank you, Jon and Amanda, for coming on and doing a Facebook Live chat so we can talk about a little bit about you and give a little updates of what's happening in the industry and my advocacy efforts. But I want everyone that's watching now to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. And for all the work that you do to help us as landlords, we really appreciate that. So we are Jon and Amanda. We started, we're 34. We have two young kids, 9 and 7. We have always been into real estate since we were together since we were teenagers. We bought our first house at 20 years old. So we kind of had that real estate bug early in life, but life kind of got in the way and we didn't start our actual investing journey for quite some time after that. And in 2017 we began buying properties, but we had a bit of a different idea then about what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm. What was your idea?
Then it was basically didn't have the early retirement thing in mind or any wealth building. It was really just have a couple of properties, and then at regular retirement age, they would have been paid off, and then we'd have some income, and we'd have a couple of assets to help us with a somewhat comfortable retirement. And it was a Keyspire event locally in Kitchener with Scott McGilvery that kind of opened our eyes to the possibilities of what real estate can do for you and how you don't necessarily need a ton of your own capital to get started, because there's all sorts of other ways of getting involved in real estate. Mm-hmm. So the BRRRR method specifically spoke to us, which is essentially like flipping, but it's flipping to yourself. It allows you to recycle the money that you put into to real estate and kind of keep moving it from property to property. And so we also kind of changed our focus and decided we were going to try and enjoy as much of our life as possible and not have to work for someone else for 40 years and barely get by, and then hopefully have enough money for retirement. So we started to buy real estate a little bit more avidly. We went from just having a couple of condos to now having 10 units, 5 different properties, and we're going to build it up from there, and try and just earn some income passively, but also we enjoy the business itself, so we're quite active in the business as well. So
and you do this full time, like as you have your full-time job as well?
Yeah, I have a full-time job. Amanda is doing some stuff part-time, but
working for our realtor actually, so it kind of helps a little bit, give us behind the scenes.
Yeah,
so you're like real life people, like you're not that rich, greedy people that we're being portrayed to be. Okay,
definitely
good to
not.
know. You're still working full time, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're definitely not those people. We, she works maybe somewhere between 15 and 20 hours helping our realtor, and I'm in HVAC sales, so I sell furnaces and air conditioners for a living. There was a point where I was so eager to get out of my job because I was working at a company that didn't treat their employees or their customers very well, and it wasn't a very pleasant place to be. So we kind of flip-flopped between our strategies. We thought maybe investing for higher cash flow was best for us, so I could quit sooner. Then I actually got a job working for a company that's just like night and day, way better, and I'm happy at work now. And so the goal is, to be able to say that I can walk away from working for someone else within the next 5 to 10 years if I wanted to. But we're not sure what will happen with that, but we want to be able to set ourselves up for that. And just have time and location freedom. That's ultimately what we want. We want to be able to go where we want, when we want, see the world, just do things when we want and not on someone else's schedule. And so that's why we originally got into the real estate and then specifically into the strategy that we're in now, which, you can talk a little bit about if you want.
The strategy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we like to buy these little bungalows and we renovate them. So we usually look for 3 bedrooms on the main floor, and then we convert it into a duplex. And then in the basement unit, we look for we're trying to fit 2 bedrooms in the basement. The last one we did, we were able to fit 3, which was awesome. But yeah, we're just trying to convert these bungalows and provide housing for more people in our area in Kitchener.
Now, when you're doing your conversion, so now that you've been into it, I have my advocacy level. What type of problems do you come into when you're dealing with municipalities, when you're trying to get these conversions happening? Because many people are buying these properties and they don't really know exactly what the policies are within the city that they're in, and they get themselves into some hot water. So have you guys, who's the friendliest city to be in and which one's the worst to be in?
We strictly invest in Kitchener when it comes to the duplexes. We found that first of all, in our area, I guess between Kitchener and Waterloo, Waterloo has much higher prices and much higher property taxes, and they also have stricter rules for being a landlord in general. You have to have a license there. The city checks in on you and things like that. So, but even just financially, Kitchener, even though it's very expensive now compared to what it was, it's the barrier to entry is not as bad in Kitchener as it is in Waterloo. And then Cambridge, for example, the market price-wise is not terrible, but they make it difficult to make duplexes profitable or even doable because they limit how many square feet of living space you can have in the basement compared to the main floor. I think it's only 40% of the living space. So you can't do it. So you hear that, guys?
Our elected officials listening, Waterloo is definitely not where Jon and Amanda want to be because we have some landlord licensing going on. In Cambridge, you're making it difficult. Come on, you have a housing crisis. You have Jon and Amanda ready to do some work. Who does the renovations, guys? Do you hire a subcontractor or do you do the work yourselves? Because I've seen your work. It looks really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a general contractor. We have a couple of different ones that we use, and they do a great job.
Yeah,
they manage all the trades, and
it's all about the team.
Yeah.
Having the right people in place that understand renovations, but understand duplexes more specifically. There's so many great renovators out there, but if they don't specialize in duplex conversions, they don't know most of the rules off the top of their head. And you kind of have to, because the inspectors are not going to sit there and tell you every little thing that you need to know. You pretty much have to know 99% of it. And then there's some things that pop up that the inspector needs to clarify. That happens all the time. But so we make sure that the contractors that we use are not only highly recommended by other reputable investors or people that we know and trust, but also understand this specific niche of real estate.
Well said. Well said. Now, do you guys manage the units yourselves as well, or did you outsource your property management?
Yeah, Jon does all the tenant screening.
Yeah, I do all the.
What's going on? We got to give a tip to the viewers. They want to know how do you do your tenant screening?
So I find my system very simple. Like it's not complicated at all. I think it works. My track record for attracting quality tenants is really good. But essentially, most of the time when I list a unit, it's being listed on either Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace or both. The reason I really like Facebook Marketplace is because you can see who these people are, even to a degree, just, look at their profile and what they're about. And you know, I've seen some landlord bashing people openly on their Facebook page. That really makes it an easy decision. But you know, you got to be careful about what you say and why you're not accepting somebody. But at least with Facebook, you can kind of get a glimpse of who they are. And I try to use that in more of a positive way than a negative way. You know, find the good people and the ones who appear to be responsible. But the biggest thing for me is asking a very short series of questions right at the beginning before we move on to any kind of phone conversation and especially an application. With my system, usually one, maybe two people will actually fill out an application for a unit. I don't hand out applications to everybody who's interested, because I kind of narrow it down to the best candidates. And there's simple questions like, where are you moving from and why? You know, what kind of pets do you have? Who's going to be moving in? What do you do for a living, and how has COVID-19 affected your income?
Nice.
And I ask the questions in an assumptive way. I don't say, do you have any pets? I say, what kind of pets do you have? You know, it sounds like I'm open to pets. Just tell me what kind of pets you have, just so I know. And you get it. People are pretty honest. You get people telling you their life stories sometimes. But when you ask the questions like, how has COVID-19 affected your income? It's like, I'm pretty much assuming that it has. And just tell me the story, and people open up, and you learn a lot about people that way. And then
people would think we're being very picky, right? You know, that's the part where they're like, well, you know, why do you care? You know, who lives in my place? Who cares if I have a dog? If I'm able to pay my rent on time, I should be able to get this unit. And it's, if you look at how much money you've put into that unit, how much money you had to put up front for that property, what you have at stake for that property. This is why landlords are tightening their screening. There was a situation in the States where they talked about more landlords getting out of the industry, or they're now stepping up their screening process. And that's what landlords in Ontario are definitely doing, especially with another eviction ban in place. And I like the concept that you talk about Facebook, because I was doing a showing, and right before I say, okay, I'm waiting for this girl to show up, and I'm starting to look in her Facebook, and she's literally inside of a car with a gun on her finger on the trigger. And I'm like, oh my God, she's coming right now. I was that, right? So you obviously have to start utilizing, and I know Facebook, you know, that's why we got ourselves on YouTube, and we're on Instagram, and even on LinkedIn, because we don't want, not a lot of people like Facebook, but when you get to see how there needs to be accountability, and I think that's what Facebook does when the screening process is on the go. So I'm glad you mentioned that how you're checking them out. It's like, hey, it's like a resume, right? Like, you have to really make sure that you're getting the right people in, because that one tenant, that one bad one that you could get in, because we have lots of good ones.
Oh, tons.
But sometimes you just get that one, and that could really take you off your feet and really put a bad taste in your mouth, right? So I'm glad that you mentioned that part of it. Now, when you're doing your tenant screening, what type of requirements do you want the tenant to have?
So, you know, that I hesitate to have requirements, because there's so many, you know, as far as what you can legally say and do, and the reasons why you can't accept them. But for us, it really does depend on the kind of unit and the size of the unit. Like, for example, when I say who's moving in, and it's a guy in his 50s and his 18-year-old son, because, you know, there was a divorce and whatever, and it's a small, tiny one-bedroom place. It's like, you can't, it's not going to work. It's really not going to work. Oh, don't worry, I'll sleep on the couch. It's like, well, you know, it's not really, this place is not really meant for that kind of living situation. So we're typically looking for a young professional single person, or a professional couple, mature. Pets are okay depending on what they are, because again, if it's a tiny unit and you've got a Great Dane in your profile picture, I'm a little bit nervous that you're going to have this large dog in a tiny place that, you know, it's not even good for the dog. So I think it's on a per situation basis, and if the situation makes sense, then we're very open. But we just want to make sure that the other, because again, we do duplexes, there's another tenant in the building. And so
I was just going to say that you need to you want to make sure that they mesh well with the other tenant.
So,
it's matchmaking. It's matchmaking the tenant with you, and it's matchmaking the tenant with the other tenant, because they got to live together. And you know that if there's any problems with those tenants fighting each other, they go to you, and you have to do something about it. If not, they're bringing you to the landlord and tenant board, and no one likes it there.
No, I mean, if you can get ahead of that, then you need to, and the tenant screening process is a big part of that. Sometimes it's like just the soundproofing just isn't amazing, and it's just everybody's being respectful, but it's still there's some noise, and it's annoying, right? So there's little things, but I try not to get involved with any type of tenant things at the beginning. I think if they can work it out between them, then that's the best way to do it. But as far as requirements, we just want people that are going to be respectful and that seem to be able to easily afford the rent without struggling. And I think that's not too much to ask from somebody who, like you said, has put a lot of time, money, and energy into owning a property to provide housing to people. And that's something that you'll never get certain people to understand. I think, like you said earlier, they're people think the landlords are rich and greedy and all this stuff, but they just don't try it. Just try owning a property and then see if you have that same opinion. And I think that if they understood what you go through to own real estate, they may not feel that way the same way.
Well, that's where we started getting into when we lease our units and the initial ad, it's sometimes people put down what they're looking for in the person. It's not about what you're looking for in the person. Put down what your unit has to offer for that tenant.
Yes.
Talk about the amenities, talk about the walking trails, talk about what it includes: 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 3 parking, 1 garage, giving it to appeal to that right to type of tenant. And then you put down that, first and last month is required. References will be checked, doing a tenancy search with Landlord Credit Bureau, and also putting in there that you report the tenant's monthly payment history to Landlord Credit Bureau, which is what can result into, one, the people who don't want to be reported are not going to apply. And the ones who are serious about growing their credit and benefiting so they could become homeowners and they could become landlords themselves, they're going to be the ones to want to come see this unit. They're going to be the ones interested in filling out your application because they want to be the responsible type of tenant and be able to be held accountable for their actions in a very good way, and something to help them with.
For sure.
Now that you've done your conversions and you're into long-term right now, permanently, do you do short-term? Where you guys see your portfolio going?
Yeah, so we have, we just started on our last one. We did Airbnb arbitrage. So we had somebody rent out our units to us, and they're Airbnb Superhosts.
We rented the units to them.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I got that backwards.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to correct her, Jon.
Yeah.
No one noticed.
Just to prevent some confusion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We gotta get good content, guys.
Yeah. So it's essentially the units are leased to Superhosts that have a very good track record of being professional Airbnb hosts, and they turn around and use our units as short-term rentals. So the reason we did that this time was because we are not, we've been focused on the type of real estate, the niche that we're in, and we have not become experts in Airbnb yet. And that's part of the plan. But we got so nervous, and honestly, being members of the Ontario Landlords Watch group has instilled some fear in us, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's like the bad part is that there's stories, there's things that happen, but the good thing is it's educating people, and it's kind of giving them fair, if they're members of the group, it's giving them fair warning. This is the kind of stuff that you're up against if you're going to be a landlord in Ontario. And so we did step outside of Ontario, and we purchased a triplex in New Brunswick, which is not our favorite way of investing, and we're actually going to be selling and kind of redeploying the money here in Ontario. But here in Ontario, it's like, do we want to continue to invest in real estate? We want to create beautiful spaces, and as much as we want to create homes for people, we are considering moving more into the Airbnb world, where you're not signing necessarily signing a lease with someone who could just screw you and end up squatting, or just somebody that's hard to get rid of it and is not paying. And so the investor and Airbnb hosts that we have leased to, they're phenomenal. They make the places look beautiful. Their units they have pretty much a 90% booking rate. So they're very successful with it. So we entrusted our units at the most recent project we completed to them, and we're kind of seeing how awesome it can be. And so going forward, we may do that again, or we may actually learn more about Airbnb ourselves and become hosts ourselves, and then potentially eliminate some of the issues that come with being long-term landlords.
I find that fascinating. One, it's about landlords getting into being the host themselves. Now it's about having someone be the host, and the host is actually your tenant in that matter. So it's like double screening happening there, just for the short-term side of things. Maybe we're onto something for maybe long-term. I see one of our comments here is that when you were talking about, the type of tenants that we put in, and worrying about the after effects and the domino effect of getting a wrong tenant, and knowing that you put two people in a 1-bedroom unit or two people in a 3-bedroom, you have that concern that they're bringing in more people. And sometimes for people who are, long-time investors, that the utilities are not included, they don't really care too much as long as you're keeping the peace. But when you have the utilities included and you can't increase the rent in order to make up for those type of increases for the utility, that's where landlord's like, whoa. So now with short-term, you're now able to step back, reevaluate, charge the price that you are, but obviously you're going to have your peak times and then you're going to have your low times, right? So I guess that's where you get your balance of having good high money, and then the other side of it, it's going to be, we don't have anybody right now, but it's going to make up for it when you do actually get that hosting happening.
Yeah. So with the situation the way it is now with this other host, is that they are paying the same way that a regular tenant would have paid. They're paying right around market rent, plus they're paying they're paying the hydro, because we always separate the hydro so that each unit has its own meter. And so they're paying the hydro, and we're paying the water and the gas, which is exactly what we would have paid if there was a regular tenant, except we don't worry about there being a random tenant that maybe looked good at the beginning and then turned out to be not so good. So
call that good tenants gone bad.
What's that? Yes, exactly. And there's some really good actors out there, but there's also people who were legitimately good, and then something happened. Like, it could have been something personal in their life, or it could have been something because of they're unhappy about something with the landlord or the place itself, and then they go rogue. So we're really just trying to avoid being one of the horror stories that people hear.
So I'm guessing you never had your horror story yet.
We have not.
No.
Knock on some wood, guys, right now. I don't care if you got to get off screen.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're at a wood table.
I've got a comment in the group. It's like, I love Airbnb. I'm never renting long-term again. I have a long-term tenant that started as an Airbnb, never pays late. So this is the growing, and we've seen that. We've seen it a lot right before COVID. Now that we have been in COVID, and I don't think we're ever getting out of COVID, but it seems of it. How has that affected any of your tenants through COVID? Were they fall underneath hard times? They were paying on time?
No.
Our Moncton property, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, which we have not personally been dealing with it because we do have a property manager out there. But other than that, any tenant that we've selected has not given us trouble that way. And it's not because I'm magic. I'm a magician. But I think that it does have a little bit to do with our screening process and knowing the kind of employment they have, and and things like that. Anything could have happened, but we've been very fortunate that our tenants have not only been able to pay because they continue to work, but that did not use COVID as an excuse not to pay, even though they were able to, which I know is happening a lot.
A lot. It's
Yeah.
like the rent strike movement, Doug Ford's message out there really put a damper on this
Yeah.
industry, so much so that we see that high demand of landlords wanting to sell these single family homes and trying to get out of the market because it's, hey, you know what, I'll just get rid of this right now because the market's so hot, put the money in my pocket for a rainy day. And you know what, now the new owner is going to be moving into that unit and paying top dollar. So that new owner is not going to be wanting to put that unit on the market as a secondary suite or as a secondary rental unit in the matter, and probably won't for quite some time. That's why when our landlords, if you are dealing with the landlord tenant board right now and you are dealing with a tenant that's not paying rent, always make sure that you're looking at every government service that you could possibly inform the tenants about, so that when you go to the landlord and tenant board, it's not like, hey, we just try to work out a payment plan. The tenant didn't want to fill out a payment plan with us, but I also was able to give them links to government services to help them with rent relief, and also programs that help them with utilities. This is about us taking that extra mile, and for some reason they hold landlords at a higher standard. So let's show them what we're working with, so that when we finally do get to the landlord and tenant board, it's going to be something that you have no skeletons in your closet. You're going to show that you're willing to work, and it's based on your finances as well. Not everyone can hold on this long and pay for all the utilities and the mortgages and insurance and so on and so forth. So it's really important. It's every dollar is counting, and that's why we need to encourage more people like yourselves to continue to keep doing what you're doing, taking these single families homes and creating those 2 units and not making it so difficult on you in order to do that. At the end of the month, we're going to be meeting with the landlord and tenant board, and that's going to discuss their pilot program that they've done for 4 weeks regarding from Microsoft over to Zoom, and what our feedback was. It's going to be about an hour and a half long conversation. I don't think a lot of people are going to be talking about Microsoft and Zoom. I think they're going to still go into the concept that great job, glad you're working the online thing very well, but we're still seeing a huge problem. We're seeing a problem with your adjudicators. We're seeing problems with tenants who are supposed to have their evidence inside of the landlord and tenant board 7 days prior to their hearing, and they're doing it minutes before they're going live with the adjudicator. So we have a lot of problems that we're still trying to get through to the landlord and tenant board. But hey, after 10 years, we finally are getting that invitation, guys. It's
That's
the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Well, you've been.
It wasn't me. You're dealing with my kids after. I'm prepping them, guys. Like.
You're working tirelessly to try and make it easier for people like us, and it's just amazing, and it's hard work, and especially when you're not getting, you feel like sometimes you're not getting anywhere, and so that's amazing that you've gotten to that point.
That's where it's like in our advocacy and getting to that table with Parm Gill, the assistant to the Minister of Housing, and giving him all of our issues and mostly giving him our solutions. And we're like, okay, let's wait for this bill. And then Bill 184 came out. I literally cried. You'll probably see that on our YouTube channel. I was like literally tearing up because I'm like, this is what they got. Like, this is just about the N12s and then N13 notices and heftier fines, because they knew this was going to happen. They knew this hot market was going to be happening. More landlords are going to be getting out of it, and now they put higher restrictions in for the landlord on that part. But we did get our little timbits here and there, the whole with the rent and how you're able to increase it, and the tenant doesn't dispute it within that year, that becomes a lawful rent. You got that maintenance, because that was the number one that these tenants were using in order to help avoid to adjourn that hearing. So we at least got that part going on for us, but we're not done. It's just you're gonna see these people when they're battling multiple different topics in the same week, and they're fighting each other. They're literally fighting each other. So it's going to be really hard for someone who doesn't have a title, trying to get them to see it where we come from as the investors, as the small mom and pop operations, because that's why the region of, did you just hear that they're trying to do tiny homes? They've now granted in Kitchener. What do you think of that?
I love it. I love it, because we've been talking about doing those, and I know in other in other cities. They're already doing them, and again, it's creating more housing. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be Airbnb-ing them though.
Yeah.
Right? It's unfortunate. I mean, like there's good money to be made in Airbnb, but that's not why we all got into being landlords. We wanted to create homes, and so I think it will happen that we will build the tiny home, or I guess the what do they call that? ADU, additional dwelling unit or auxiliary dwelling unit.
Yeah, we have that garage or shed, sorry, on our last duplex that we just did that we could convert into something.
Yeah,
so.
it's a large,
It's
like
very
powered
large.
heated shed, and we could either
Yeah.
add onto it or replace it. But you know, we like that and they unanimously voted for that too. So it's definitely something that they're interested in doing and helping to create more housing.
And definitely trying to see where it goes, what these tiny homes look like, who's actually going to be occupying, and what's the cost to do it. And I believe it was Ryan Carr who did his tiny home in Oshawa. So it's like, let's see, you know, are you going to do it again? Is the money actually worth it? And
Yeah.
are the neighbors going to be upset that they got neighbors right in the backyard now? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's, and I'm always concerned about people living in a tiny spot. You know, I know we should be privileged for what we have, but their mental state is going to feel like the walls are closing in on you.
Well, I think that there's enough people who are like, I think there's maybe not a huge market, but a market for tiny homes. And at this point, if you want a tiny home, you pretty much have to go buy one. You got to spend your 150 grand to buy one. Whereas if you're a renter and you have the ability to live in one for less money perhaps than it would be to rent a full house, there might be a market for that. But I think it's going to be, I think the short-term rental thing is going to be big with those, because then it wouldn't be somebody living in it full time.
I always see with the tiny homes and what that monthly rate will be, and what that's going to do to normal size units. Are the rents going to go higher on those units because you're getting a full size? You're not getting the miniature. You're not getting the thins, the chocolate thin bars. You know, so we always want to kind of play with that, because some of these issues, like when you talk about solutions with the government, we want to know what their solutions are, what they think is going to be their solution, because I can't really see a lot more people wanting to create tiny homes, but I do see a lot more people wanting to create secondary suites. But if you make it hard and you make it difficult and you give a lot of red tape that they got to try to break through, this is where we're going to see more investors just trying to get into another province and trying to invest there, especially if they have to go long term. They're going to go into a province where the laws make sense. There's balance, there's fairness, there's accountability. But I know that everyone is probably busy on a Thursday. I know that I have so much paperwork to do, get ready for this meeting with the Landlord and Tenant Board at the end of the month, as well as speaking with the region of Waterloo, talking about this housing crisis that we have, because we have to be concerned as taxpayers. You know, we pay the price for a housing crisis as well, when we have to sit back and understand that the government is using taxpayers' dollars to build, to manage, to maintain, to subsidize government housing, and they can't even do that right. You know, we got 10 years in the region of Waterloo waiting for government housing, and it's 22 years from the last stats in Mississauga. So you get to see the demand is there. So we want to kind of look at the inefficiencies within their programs, within government housing in itself, and we look at the entire picture of real estate as a whole. You know, not just small landlords, big landlords, development, but what the government is doing, because I think it's about communicating, and we need to have people like yourselves. Like, I wish you guys were on a committee within the city. You're an investor, your voice should be heard, and being able to give that information to the people who are going to bring that to the people in power. And we're going to have to continue to keep working with each other and sharing our thought process. Now, for you, not having to go through the Landlord and Tenant Board right now, as an investor who wants to keep creating more units, what would you want our government to do in order so that they can set you up for success again, and to keep you going on this journey of creating more units into your region?
Well, I think from a city to city perspective, I think that it should be more standardized, so that you're not finding people investing more so in one city than another because of the stricter rules or the inability in general to do a certain kind of real estate. But even within the city, we find, and again, this is not, there's far more serious issues than this, but what we found is you're at the mercy of an individual inspector who does things the way they want to do, and there's really no questioning an inspector. There is, but you probably won't get very far. And in addition to each city not being standardized, the city of Kitchener, even though it is probably one of the easier ones to work with when it comes to duplex conversions, every inspector is different. They all look at things a different way. So you might have done a project in one neighborhood where it was super straightforward. There was no big, like you knew all the rules from that job that you kind of transferred to the next job, but then the next inspector does it completely differently. And I don't care what you did at the last one, this is not the way I do it. And so I would like to see more standardizing of rules and regulations so that there's no questioning. It's like, this is what the book says, this is how we do it, not this is how I do it, this is how they do it. So I think just getting everybody on the same page would be a huge thing for everyone, regardless of the type of project you're doing. Just have the rules the same for everyone, and it'll make things easier.
No, I agree. I think it's about that education, just like the RTA and the LTV, getting that education to landlords and tenants before the hand, not just when there's a problem, is going to be the best fit. And I'm liking the concept that you guys are doing the secondary suites. I think it is something that we need to continue to keep going. And as long as we are tightening our screening, and for all of our listeners tonight or watching on repeat, please check out landlordcreditbureau.ca. This is something that is the game changer. It's going to help you reward your good tenants, and it's going to bring our tenants to and hold them to be accountable for their actions, and understanding that rent is the number one thing that we should be paying, more so than anything. And it's a way for us to protect the industry and can keep that supply going. It's all about the supply and demand. And sadly, we're seeing that dwindle here in Ontario, and our landlords, our investors are taking off. You know, they're getting into the States, they're going over to Alberta, they're trying to get in, like you guys did, into the East Coast, so that you get to see what's going on in that area. So it's really nice to be able to still jump on here, do a Facebook Live, connect with our members. And again, congratulations to Sarah Voss, who won the yearly membership with Landlord Credit Bureau. Congratulations. I had to do the quick draw with 4 kids running around. I'm like, I look like a hot mess. I couldn't even get on to do a Facebook Live.
That's funny.
But we have so many more different guests that are going to come on. We have an amazing campaign that's going to be coming up, something that's going to reward our amazing tenants. And that's what we don't do very often in the group, is to talk about these amazing tenants, the one who have been doing up and beyond more than what a tenant should do. And this campaign is really going to highlight that. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to everyone in the next couple of weeks. And then we have an event coming up, guys. I'm going to keep you on a cliffhanger. So stay tuned. We're going to work out all the details, but this is going to be, it's going to be a nice conference with an OLW touch to it. If anyone has turned out to one of our previous conferences here in Cambridge. So just stay tuned, and we're going to bring lots of that information to you and bring more people just like Jon and Amanda. And we'll have you back on, because I know you guys are going to be doing another project and getting yourselves into the Airbnb and exploring tiny homes. And we want to get your input about that, because we know we have listeners that are definitely interested in what tiny home is, because they're kind of priced out of the big homes. Yeah. So I want to thank you again. And if you have any how people can find you, if they want to find you and follow you and on your journey, how would they find you?
Yeah, so we post our journey on Instagram at Legacy Home Investments. We have a YouTube channel at Legacy Home, and our website is legacyhome.ca.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Get in touch anytime. Yeah.
Are you on Twitter? I don't like Twitter.
No,
I'm on Twitter.
No, we're not on Twitter. We want more. We want more of a local, kind of more intimate feel when it comes to like the people that connect with us. And I think the Twitter is just so worldwide, in my opinion. It's just so broad, so we stay away from it. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our website, you can email us right on there too.
That's beautiful. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you coming on, taking your evening with
and giving us on.
Oh, it's going to be, we'll do it again very shortly.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. Until we do this again, happy renting.